'Cause I'd still pick you in the checkout line when the coupons fail and the card declines, when the kids are screaming and the car won't steer, and I'm one small inconvenience from a breakdown in here. Yeah, I'd still pick you. You're my steady north, my Jedi in my court.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Is Life with Tim and Jenna. We aren't. I'm in Illinois at my mom and dad's house. Came up to do a couple projects for her, and so we decided, Jenna didn't get to come with us, she's home working, so we decided that we're going to interview my mom today and have some good conversations about what life was like growing up with us, raising us, marriage, all that kind of fun stuff. So I've got a list of questions I'm going to ask, and you guys get to hear a little bit about my growing up. And so love the atmosphere. We're sitting on the front porch in the porch swing, looking at cornfields. May not be everybody's cup of tea, but it's my cup of tea. So, all right, let's get to it. First question. When you think back to the beginning of your relationship with Dad, what first drew you to him? And did you know early on that he was the one?
What drew me to him was probably that he was easy to talk to. He was very much a gentleman. He was born and raised in a Christian home and was interested in going to attending church when we were married. Early on, yes, probably by 6 weeks of dating, we were planning our wedding. We didn't get married until about 10 months after we started dating, but by 6 weeks, we knew when we were getting married and where we were going on our honeymoon. And
Yeah. So how did that first date happen?
how did the first date happen? Well, probably the week before, a group of us one of our friends had a convertible, and we were just riding around town. There were about 6 of us in the car, just talking and messing around. And then the next day, he called and asked me to go out with him the following Saturday.
Okay. So, interesting fun fact. My mom's probably not going to like me for saying this on the podcast, but my mom actually went on a date with my uncle before going on a date with my dad.
So, what he didn't tell you is that my husband was the oldest of 17 children, 12 of which were boys.
So, half the male population of our small town at the time.
So, there was a good possibility that I would have dated one of his brothers.
All right. So, looking back over your marriage, what were some of the greatest joys and what was one of the hardest seasons you and Dad had to walk through? So, greatest joy in marriage, and then what was one of the hardest seasons?
I think the greatest joy that we had was raising our children, having our children and raising them.
Is it
And
all the time that was the greatest joy?
I think so. Even when it was hard, it was a good choice.
Okay.
And probably the roughest time we went through was in 1987, 88, when Illinois had a very bad drought year, and we came very close to losing everything that we had.
Yeah.
When the bank starts talking about foreclosing on you, it becomes a big burden personally, and it's hard on a marriage.
Yeah.
Because my husband felt like he was a failure.
And I remember you and Dad both talking about that time. I don't know that. Let's see. I would have been in elementary school at that time. I don't recall the impact for me. Sally and Jan may have noticed that differently being older.
I think it probably impacted Jan more than you or Sally because she was getting ready to go to college and, of course, had to fill out all the financial information and everything for grants and scholarships. And so she was more aware of our financial situation.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, there was 1 year of statewide droughts, pretty much, which isn't necessarily bad. It's bad, but usually the prices adjust when there's a widespread drought. But 1 year it was more localized to just kind of our area, a few small pockets, and so the prices stayed down, and it just
Well,
was a
and
double
that was
whammy.
also a time that farmers were struggling anyway in
Yeah,
this area. A lot of foreclosures and a lot of farmers quitting because they were going under. That was when Willie Nelson started having the Farm Aid
oh yeah, I remember
concerts
that.
and that kind of thing because farmers were doing so poorly.
Yeah. So, what surprised you most about becoming a mom? And what do you think was the greatest joy and greatest challenge of raising me and my sisters?
Um, Probably the biggest challenge was the fact that you and Sally were both preemie high risk infants and were in the preemie center about what, 60 miles away,
Yeah.
60, 70 miles away. Um, and at that time, they didn't have facilities for you to stay. So we would have to go back and forth to be able to see you and just bringing home a baby that has breathing issues at that time when they didn't have monitors and things to send home with you was a challenge. The biggest joy, I think, was in watching you grow up, watching you graduate from high school and then going on and graduating from college and your higher education learning facilities, and getting married,
Yeah. We all
having our grandchildren.
we all graduated multiple times from college, so imagine that was a trip. But for those of you who don't know, we when we were born, we did have a hospital, a small hospital in town, um, but both my sister and I had trouble breathing, and so we were shipped out to the closest preemie hospital, I guess, about 60 miles away. Sally went by ambulance. I went by helicopter.
He had his first helicopter ride
First
when
and
he
only
was about
helicopter ride.
3 hours old.
3 hours? Was it that quick?
Yeah.
I never knew how quick it was. So, yeah. There was even an article, and I made the newspaper at 3 hours old. They had a picture of the helicopter and a little article about it in the
He
local
was
newspaper.
the first baby taken from our local hospital to the preemie center by helicopter.
Yeah.
They were just starting to use the helicopters.
So, what was the greatest challenge in raising us?
Our oldest daughter is a redhead, and that was probably the biggest challenge.
I'll say that all redheads are challenged. I know quite a few that are. I also know a couple that aren't.
She was very independent and very stubborn and came out of the womb wanting to control the world.
Didn't she at one point tell you that you weren't raising me right and that she knew
Yes.
better how to raise me?
She was 9 years old when Tim was born, and she let me know right off that she knew more about how to raise him than I did.
Which worked out well in my favor because I pretty much had control of her my, my entire life. Maybe not so much now, but I remember getting to go on dates with her because I would work my way into that.
And she used to spend, when she first had a job, her paycheck went for buying him Matchbox cars and anything else that he wanted.
I'm okay with that. All right. Moving on. Looking back now, is there anything you wish you had worried less about or done differently as a parent?
As a parent,
Yeah.
ah, that's rough. There are always things that you, when you look back, you think, I could have done, I could have said something different or done something different. But for the most part, you kids were easy to raise. You didn't have friends that got in trouble. You didn't get in trouble. We had a motto when we were raising you kids that we did not pay bail. If you went to jail, you stayed because we didn't pay bail.
I was probably okay to navigate because I was pretty much a rule follower.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think Jan was much of a rule follower. She's more of a rule breaker. But I remember one time I don't think I was in high school, and I'd gone out. I forget why I went. I don't know if I went to work. I was driving, but somehow me and a couple of my friends ended up in the center of our town, outside the police departments, playing frisbee at 1 a.m. And my curfew was at midnight, I think. It was a state curfew. I think it was on a Friday or Saturday, so it was midnight. And um, I thought I was good because I was outside the police office, and the police officer was sitting in the little like one room office that we had in downtown. And I got home at 1:30, I think, and Mom was sitting up in the living room. I came in and she's like, "Where have you been?" Can't remember if I got grounded for that or not. I'm sure I did.
I will tell you that for a good share of the time when the kids were growing up, I worked at a nursing home on a shift that started at 5 in the morning and was over at 1 in the afternoon. So staying up to make sure my children got in and were safe and all of that was not possible because I had to be up at well, I had to be up about 3:30. So I learned early on to say, okay, Lord, I'm their earthly caregiver. If you need me, wake me up. And he never failed to wake me up. Our oldest daughter used to say when she didn't get home on time, she'd say, I didn't call because I didn't want to wake you up. And my husband would look at her and say, call because she's awake anyway.
Yeah. Yep, you were.
Yeah.
Dad didn't stay up for stuff like that, but he would wake. I remember Jan came home from school in Missouri, and she was supposed to get home the next morning or something like that, and showed up at
The
like
next
three. Yeah,
afternoon.
three. Showed up at 3 in the morning. Dad came out of the when she came through the door. Dad was like, "What are you doing here?" So he didn't stay up, but he was always when we had to go wake somebody up in the middle of the night. We didn't want to wake Dad up because he was always grumpy when we woke him up. But he was the lightest sleeper, so he is always the one that would wake up.
Yeah, I didn't wake up very
He's always
easily.
go back to bed. So we never got anything. Uh, So, what is one family memory that perfectly captures what life in our home was really like?
One family memory. Ah, I don't
Do you remember the frozen pop shop?
know.
You don't remember that?
No. What I think about is when Daddy's had his heart surgery and you kids were all there.
I was late
You were
because I
late
was in
because you
Texas.
had to come from Texas and the
Yeah.
girls were already right there. But our family has always been able to come together and support each other and care for each other and pray for each other. And I think that's probably,
Okay. So it's been almost 2 years since Dad passed away. What has been the hardest part of learning to do life differently?
Um, well, we had a lot of things going on the first year after he passed.
Yeah.
And so, and there were some medical issues I was dealing with and that kind of thing. So I didn't spend a lot of time with what I would call grieving
Yeah.
that year. I think this year has probably been the hardest year because I don't have all the distractions
Yeah.
and everything. Plus I've been doing some remodeling in the house which has taken out some of the things that were his alone,
Yeah.
and that's been hard. But I go with to Bible study with a group of widows. It's not a group session for grief, it's just a Bible study. And we talk about how everybody deals with it. A lot of the women in that group, it's been 10, 12 years or so since they've lost their husbands. Um, and they talk about there's kind of a debate whether it's the first year or the second year that's the hardest to
Yeah.
get through. So,
Yeah. And for everybody else, my dad and a few of my uncles built this house,
yes,
and it is 1 year younger than me as far as when it was finished. So it probably got started about the time I was born.
it did.
Um,
We were meeting with the architect while I was still pregnant with you.
yeah,
Um, maybe why you thought you wanted to be an architect.
could be, could be. I actually worked for the architect that designed our house for a period of time when I was in college. So kind of funny how things come for full circle. Um, but what is well? So let me ask you this question: What what do you find that like brings back the memories of Dad the easiest?
Um, so, Tim told you in the beginning, we live in a farm, and my windows in the kitchen face the barnyard. And I think when two of his brothers, one rents our land and our sheds, and the other one rents the grain bins. And so when they start working in the barnyard, that's what brings back the memories of Everett.
For me, it's when I hear this is sound crazy, but it's when I hear old country songs.
Yeah.
It happened the other day. We were at Texas Roadhouse, and this wasn't even the original song. Somebody had kind of taken portions of a song and blended it into a newer song. Um, but when I heard those lyrics and that tune, it took me back to riding in the tractor with Dad when I was little, and I could smell the diesel, I could smell the dirt, I could hear the tractor, and so just stuff like that takes me back, sounds and smells to
The sound or the smell of fresh turned dirt,
yeah
because I used to ride in the tractor with him when he was plowing and that kind of thing. And that'll bring back memories. Doing this remodel in the house has brought back memories because, like you said, he built the house
yeah
literally, did the plumbing, did the wiring, everything. And so now when we're changing things, it's like, well, I don't know. Everett just always did that,
yeah
you know?
yep. He took care of almost everything on the house until
Yes.
from maybe the last few years, and or paid somebody else to do it. So, has grief taught you anything about yourself, your faith, or life that you couldn't have learned any other way?
It's taught me that I'm stronger than I thought I was. It's taught me that God is always there and answers my questions or provides an answer. Um, And it's taught me that grief isn't always sad, isn't always painful, because we had a lot of good memories and we
Yeah.
laughed a lot as a family and with Everett's family, and they're all kind of when the Meisters get together, it's a good time,
It is a good time.
a lot of
It's always
laughs.
around food, often around go-karts, but it's usually doing something.
Yes.
So it's a good time. What do you miss most about Dad? And what part of him do you still see living on in your family?
What was the last part?
What part of him do you still see living on in us and grandkids and
Um, the thing I miss most about him is the companionship, having somebody to talk to and depend on. Um, Shortly before he passed, I had gone through some medical issues and didn't really feel secure in driving.
Hmm.
And so I always knew he was there. He would drive, he would take me wherever I needed to go or whatever needed to happen, even if it meant going 3 states away and that kind of thing. Um, and what still goes on that reminds me, like last night when we sat around the kitchen table and
Yeah.
laughed till we cried. Um, yeah,
Okay. When you look at your children and grandchildren today, what makes you the most proud?
the most sad,
Proud.
proud.
Or sad does hopefully there's not too much that makes you sad.
Well, I didn't, it makes me sad that they don't get to spend more time with daddy,
Yeah.
especially Noble, being I will never remember dad probably. But proud, I like to watch their accomplishments. I like to watch Peyton and Preston and Mercy when they graduated high school and how hard they work. Um, and all the kids. Fortunately, our grandchildren are smart and they accomplish things that some kids never get the opportunity to accomplish.
Yeah.
I just like to watch them grow.
Okay. So last question. If Dad were sitting here listening to this conversation, what would you want him to know? And what do you hope your family remembers most about the life you built together?
That endurance in a marriage is important. Marriage is not easy, it takes a lot of work. But if you fight for it and you stay when the times get hard, it's worth it. It's a good thing. When you get old, you still have somebody with you that loves you and cares about you and has memories with you. Um, Sometimes it's hard. I mean, when he was sick, it was hard to think about not having him here.
Yeah.
And not being here to be my sounding board and to give me encouragement. Um, but yeah,
What do you hope your grandkids remember most about him?
that he loved them dearly, especially his blue-eyed blondes. And
Which are all of our kids. You guys are pretty much that way too.
yes, but we have two granddaughters that are just 3 months apart, and he always treated them like twins.
Yeah.
One in each arm, and called them his blue-eyed blondes. So, yeah.
I remember every grandkid sat in Dad's chair with him. He would tuck them in beside him, and they would sit there and read books
Yeah.
or watch TV or whatever. But that was the spot. He would just tuck them in beside
We
him.
actually bought what was considered oversized recliner so that he had room to set them beside him and he would read. That's how he put them to sleep when he wanted them to take a nap.
Yep.
So,
Well,
yeah.
thanks, Mom, for jumping on the podcast with us today.
Okay.
And really thank you for, we never had to worry about you and Dad splitting up. I know things were difficult at times, in the years of the drought and just different times. It's clear
Yeah.
that you guys didn't always see eye to eye on things, but we never had any insecurity about coming home and you guys still being there and together, whatever that looked like. So, well, this is Life with Tim and Jenna. Thanks so much for joining us this week on location in Illinois. We will be back next week with another great topic. If you enjoy what we're talking about, hit the subscribe button. Always follow us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Be looking for new content. We will see you next time.
'Cause I'd still pick you in the checkout line when the coupons fail and the card declines, when the kids are screaming and the car won't steer, and I'm one small inconvenience from a breakdown in here. Yeah, I'd still pick you. You're my steady north, my Jedi.